Everybody, this is Joe for MTGO coming at you with a quick deck tech before we get into a couple of gameplay for Boros Burn in the modern format. As a friendly reminder, if you do like these informative modern videos, gameplay, and deck overviews, please consider subscribing to the channel, give us a thumbs up, and a constructive comment down below. So this is a list that we started playing on our stream over at twitch.tv/MTG_Nexus. This is a list from recently finished by Sandydogmtg in a modern preliminary. The notable things about the list: a couple copies of Ragavan, something I've been kind of advocating along with Frank Karsten just to have some more one-drops. And the sideboard being a little bit unique with Searing Bloods over Paths. That's one card a lot of people wanted me to try. Spoilers, it's not been the most impressive of cards. 3 copies of Deflecting Palm feels like a little much in the current format, but other than that, a lot of the things you expect to see in a burn sideboard: Sanctifier, Roiling Vortex, copies of Skullcrack if they're not more Roiling Vortexes, and then copies of Smash to Smithereens. Now obviously this list is trying to capitalize on playing a little bit more in the one-drop department. Interestingly, also is playing 5 copies of Basic Mountain. Not sure if I completely understand that one, other than not liking to take extra damage from Fiery Islets and Canopy lands, maybe. The original list also played more of a split on the fetch lands, so it had like 1 Bloodstained Mire, 2 Wooded Foothills, in addition to the Arid Mesas and the Scalding Tarns. That's strictly correct if you're playing around things like Pithing Needle. Not really a huge deal, but can be some very small corner case scenarios. And, beyond that, just playing the normal burn stuff. Not a huge fan of Searing Blood. Searing Blood is much better in a formats gone by. There's not a lot of small creature decks running around. You're not seeing a lot of decks like Elves, Merfolk, Humans. You are seeing some things like Yawgmoth and Murktide. The problem with Murktide is really only Ragavan is the only card that can consistently kill. Ledger Shredder is too big. Obviously, DRC can get out of range, etc., etc. So, not the biggest fan of this card. We'll see how it plays out in these couple of matches. And then, obviously, Deflecting Palm. It's a fine card. The problem with it really is just simply the fact that it's a very reactive card against most of the decks that you want to be playing against, like Murktide and such. And most of those decks are frequently packing counter spells. It's not really a proactive thing, so you can't really slip it in when they're tapped out. You're really kind of at the mercy of when they're attacking. It can be a very powerful effect whenever it connects, but sometimes you'd rather have Path or some other spell. As far as people saying that Path is not a card burn really once, it extends the game. No, that's not really how you have to look at Path. You have to kind of look at Path as, okay, can I deal with this creature otherwise? Things like a 4/4 Fury, a Murktide Regent, sometimes even things like Droughty the Elysian Groves, Primeval Titan, etc. These are all cards that you want to get out of the way, try to connect with your creatures, and sometimes a 3 damage burn spell just isn't good enough. So that said, let's get into some matches and see how we hold up. Alright, we're here for our first match on MTG Nexus in a little while. It's hands on the draw. I do think we can keep with the absurd amount of 1-drops. Definitely hoping to rip a second land, though. Alright, Flooded Strand, go. Looks like we're up against immediately. Okay, Ragavan must die. Here we go. All right. I feel like this is getting bolted, or possibly opponent has a Ragavan on top. Yay. Yep. Question is, do they fetch it away or not? Fortunately, they do. Because Ragavan can be a little bit difficult to deal with, and they have to consider But we could always get hit with a fast Murktide here and regret our life choices. So that'll be what, a 5/5? Alright, so I guess we suspend Riftbolt and hope to peel a land next turn and hope they somehow don't have a counterspell. Alright. Alright, so we can go ahead and concede now. Alright, sideboarding. Downside of not having pass in your list is you don't have anything to... Could bring in the Searing Bloods, I guess, for Ragavan. But that feels kind of middling at best. A couple copies of Eidolon and the Boros Charms, I guess. So I'd like to play first. Sand is fine. Keep. Get to land a Sanctifier, which is always nice. Let's play this tapped, or just play this out. It's possible you can hold on to this for like a Searing Blaze, but either way, we're probably going to be grabbing a Sacred Foundry with it, so. Yeah, I legitimately don't care about Ragavan here. I think we're not going to waste the bolt right now. That knows there. Ragavan's now doing nothing the rest of the game. Okay. Another one of those are doing nothing the rest of the game. I think we take the opportunity to bolt the DRC. That was dumb. Needed to tap the Fire Outlet. Because now we may not get another opportunity to deal with or to resolve this other Sanctifier. Mm-hmm. Alright, there comes Monkey. Do this. Hope somehow our stupid deflecting palm resolves. Maybe we have a chance. But their light total should be much lower if we'd gotten the second Sanctifier down if I hadn't mistapped. Yep, Expressive Iteration. I guess to consider their options. Okay. It's a Ragavan in the splash zone. I mean, we have to try it. Not much of a chance of it resolving, but we do have to try it. Sacrifice this, which we should have done a couple turns ago. Presume our opponent's just going to trade here. Could have tried to use the 2 goblin guys to draw answers, plus get the chump block with that. So many mistakes in this game on my end, though. Another Ragavan, or another Murktide into making this one bigger. Yep, I get that to a 7. Now we're on a 1-turn clock effectively. And the only card we could draw is another Deflecting Palm. It's obviously a desperation attack. They have a spell snare on top. And then we're just dead, so. Like, obviously we don't know what's in our opponent's hand. Deflecting Palm would have been nice. It's possible if we'd gotten that Sanctifier down earlier that we would have had more of a chance. But I definitely don't like this matchup normally anymore. And then with this build not having Path in it, I like it even less. So, anyways, on to the next match. Alright, back here for our second match. Let's play a little bit sharper this time, shall we? On the play, which is nice. 4-land hand. Ah, this one's close. It's close from the standpoint of this is a hand that I would love to keep because of this opener here. So we'll try it, but it's probably a hand we should not keep. 4 lands, generally you want them all, but this is one of Burn's best openers too. So opponent's a 19. Opponent. Seriously? Okay. Murktide a little bit of everywhere lately. Ledger Shredder, sure. Hopefully they don't have a bauble to go with it. Of course they do. Okay, so see if our opponent goes for a block. Don't think we waste resources trying to kill the Shredder. Now obviously this could be incorrect, but as low as we are on resources, we just want to put them max pressure on them, force them to react to what we're doing. But on the VODs channel where I streamed this one, our very last match was Murktide, and then first match Murktide, and then this match Murktide. So puts a monkey in their graveyard. So best draw would be like because we can effectively play around Spell Pierce here. Boros Burn would be the best option, I guess. Opponent obviously gets a connive trigger, but I don't think it's going to matter. Because the only thing The only thing that saves them here, I think, is Force of Negation, because obviously we can play around Pierce. Alright, once again, burn the Sanctifiers. Bring in the Palms. Still don't like having 3 of these in my list. Down a couple of Eidolons. Down the Boros Charms. Hopefully we can play tighter in these post-board games and get this match. I don't want to tell my opponent that we're going to concede to them, but because of we're 0-4, it doesn't matter if we win this match in terms of value for us. We get nothing. Our opponent might get something from us conceding the match to them, but I also don't want them to play more loose as if, you know, they're guaranteed to win the match. I want it to be more legit. You know, obviously we've punted about 1 billion times in the second game of the last match because of mistapping, but gotta have tighter play sometimes. Alright, we're gonna draw this game. This hand is pretty excellent. We have an opener of either Monastery Swiftspear into Searing Blaze, or just Bolt into Searing Blaze potentially. So if our opponent has a monkey, we have an answer. Every game. So obviously we can play around them dashing monkey. Opponent does nothing. So I'm going to play Swiftspear here out. I wanted to kind of bait them into countering this if they were going to use a counter spell. I should have played a land after they let it resolve though. That way we could play around my opponent having Unholy Heat specifically. Now do they dash a monkey? Because us trading resources does not favor us in a game against Murktide. Just does not. So Archmage's Charm possibly up here. Let's play the fetch land and pass. No reason to play anything else. So now we have a tough decision about what land to fetch, because we do have Sanctifiers in our deck. And I'm going to take the damage to fetch. Presumably they have a counter spell here. Yep. Might have been incorrect to play that mountain. Now, the downside of playing against Murktide, especially in the post-board games, is while you want to keep lands available for a Searing Blaze, you also have the issue of like playing around Spell Pierce, Flusterstorm, you know, all these like soft-esque counters. I might have to trade a counter spell here. Feels like they have soft counters more than anything here. Because like they could have played a Murktide out by now. Okay, here's the Murktide we were talking about. That's one of the reasons to do what we did. So our opponent could also be sitting on Bolt, which makes this a 2-turn clock. So we may have to try to... Okay. Okay, lava spike, sure. If they have a counter spell, we're dead here no matter what, so. Sure. Well, yeah, you weren't beating that anyway. So let's play first. Oh, the old one-lander. His hand's slightly better. Back one of the lava spikes. Fetch Sacred Foundry once again because Sanctifier is in our deck. Gets a land off of us. Mm-hmm. Our opponent to 11. They hit a DRC. Yep. Possible one scan. Should not play this pre-combat. Opponent gets another land. value with our trump block on the way out. I guess if they hit... guess I should have played Eidolon before they did this, so we could get some better idea of what they were doing. Oh, it's tanking really hard. So they would need what? Mishra's Wobble or Expressive Iteration, effectively? Goes to 9. Murktide. Four. No reason to attack here. They considering counterspelling that? No reason to waste attackers. I think this has much of a chance of resolving, but let's throw it out there, force them to blow a counterspell. I say them playing another Murktide would be very bad for the home team here. Puts an iteration into the yard. Exiles an Unholy Heat. Now has to attack with Channeler. I'm gonna hold on to that for Searing Blaze purposes. Alright, and there's no combination of cards that gets us out of that situation, so we'll play it, but we're dead because the Boros Shrums are on our sideboard. That said, our opponent may not choose to attack here. Okay, never mind. They're going to attack. Skewer the Critics. This is not the card we were looking for. And counterspell. Yep, that's why I prefer having Exquisite Firecraft in my sideboard. Right, so back with a quick wrap. Murktide's a tough matchup. In other news, you know, especially when you don't have a sideboard really well set up to the matchup. I mean, yeah, we were boarding in these 6 cards, but I would rather have access to Path. You know, Sanctifier is fine in the matchup, but it's not the be-all end-all because both Murktide and Ledger Shredder can kind of blanket. You know, I did play a little bit poorly in the first game too against them. Kind of sucks a little bit. We might have been able to win that game, but you know, as you get in the post-war games, the matchups gets even tougher. In game 1, it's not particularly easy, especially if they play very, very tightly, which most Murktide pilots these days are simply doing. As far as where Burn's at in the meta, or as far as this list, I'm not a huge fan of the Searing Bloods and one of these copies. Beyond that, the rest of the list I can kind of get behind, although I'm not a huge fan of 5 basic mountains. I think I'd rather play, you know, even if you wanted to go down on damage, I think I'd play like 1 Sekenzan over one of these basic mountains if you wanted to go this route. Now obviously the thing with the Canopy lands, you're trying to mitigate flood, you know, so you know, Sekenzan kind of helps that by being a mountain that can also be a channel spell on the mid game. You know, sometimes those 2 1/1s out of nowhere can get your opponent. But another card I also like against when you're seeing a bunch of Murktide is Exquisite Firecraft. Now, obviously, it's a bit of a nombo with Sanctifier and Vec specifically, but generally, if you have Sanctifier in play, your opponent's having a lot more problems with getting their Murktides online, etc. So, you know, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But, anywho, Burn, not the best position deck in the format right now. I know a lot of people still play it. I know it's still a relatively popular deck in terms of like views and such, but you know, as far as its place in the meta, it does have a rough matchup against a lot of the decks in the meta right now, and it's really, in some ways, it's kind of gone the way of Dredge, Tron, Jund. You have to have very specific metas where it does well. It can sometimes do well. Don't get me wrong. And it's a very good stepping stone deck into the format, but I would not really recommend Burn as a long-term deck in the format right now, just because it really needs, a Chain Lightning, a Fire Blast, even something like a Price of Progress, which might be a little bit too extreme for the format, but Burn needs something to breathe a little bit of life into it in the format. Another 1-drop Hasty Creature that's not total garbage like something Ronin and the Goblin War one that's just terrible. Now they've made attempts to print creatures like that, but alas, Ragavan's probably the best we're doing as our third 1-drop. But I hope to see you for another Burn video in a couple weeks, and don't forget to continue to check us out for the deck overviews that for the month of December we are trying to do a deck release or a video released every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just for December. Once we get back to January, we'll be back to the normal Monday, Thursday schedule.